I've just, over the past year or so, become familiar with the work of Ed Berry, who's sitting at the end of the table, and his Sustainable Living Planner tool. And what I like about it is it really comes up with some real numbers for some of the scenarios we'd like to discuss. It looks at different regions of the world and actually can be country-specific and helps people understand the concept of sustainability in terms of population and lifestyle. Plugs in assumptions as well about how well we're going to do in terms of transitioning to a clean energy economy. And it also looks at, let's say, agricultural productivity. So it's a nifty tool that we hope is really going to help with the debate about sustainability in a macro sense. I should add that it's based on the ecological footprint metric as well. So really the underpinnings are very credible. I mean, I'd say the footprint network has become the gold standard in terms of talking about ecological sustainability and the impact of individuals. Now, I asked Ed to run a program for the United States, and there's a number of assumptions here. Basically, it's business as usual. It's 22-acre footprint, so we haven't reduced that. I happen to be a skeptic about reducing consumption, at least in a voluntary sense, and it may be that the bottom falls out and consumption's going to go down for that reason. But in terms of Americans really voluntarily reducing that footprint, that's going to grudgingly happen because actually that's been increasing somewhat. But anyway, you may have different thoughts on this, but for the purpose of this 22-acre footprint, this 100% utilization capacity means right now, and it's one of the reasons that we've been able to grow as we have and have such a huge economy and such a huge footprint as we appropriate from other lands. They're called ghost acres, actually. We actually go use resources that represent 188% currently of our biocapacity. So we're going 88% over what we got in our own country. Well, obviously, we import a lot of stuff. Virtually everything is made in China these days, for instance. At the same time, we've been able to overshoot our resources in our own country. So there's a matter of environmental degradation as well. What we've done here is say business as usual, 188%, can't happen. It's what we've got to, in terms of it, it's a tenet. It should be fundamental of sustainability that we get that down to 100%. We live within our means. So I haven't given, in terms of this example, as that much slack in terms of that aspect of it. Then we've got 40% emissions reduction. This is by 2050, and 20% agricultural efficiency. You know, we could quibble over that, but it's for the purposes of this exercise. Business as usual. You can see that you've got 200 million people in the first, and then it declines. And the reason it declines is we plugged in, as one of the assumptions, how much land we're going to put aside for wildlife. We've got 5% currently that's formally protected. What happens when we go to 10%? What happens 20% and 30%, which is the ideal? Well, you can see that it does make a difference in terms of the population. It makes a 50 million. It's actually a difference of about 25% in terms of what the sustainable population could be. Well, there's trade-offs here. We can lower consumption, we can lower population less, but we would have to get there somehow in order to achieve sustainability. So what I loved about this model is that it allows you to take account for biodiversity, which, getting back to earlier in the talk, is something that you've rarely seen in terms of these macro sustainability models. Okay. My conclusion, just as the 5 minutes remaining sign came on, is that we've got to make room in the landscape for species. It will demand a considerable contraction of the nation's ecological footprint and our population growth, and it involves, most importantly, living within our natural means. Thank you very much.